Hey, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Iamsickflowz. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm back on YouTube. I am doing weekly videos, and this week's video is going to be on mastering in Izotope Ozone 4 using Cubase 5. As you guys see here, I have my mixed down song, actually of an artist that I mixed down. And what you're going to do is make sure you have enough headroom in your song or your mix down. And by that I mean go ahead and make sure you have at least -3 dB reduction in your song, because you want to give the master engineer or yourself enough room to go ahead and mess around with the mastering settings and effects. And to see, for those of you that don't know how to tell how much dB your song has, we go up to devices and we're gonna go ahead and open up the mixer, and right here we have the stereo output. Now I am gonna go ahead and play the song, and you're gonna keep a look into the dB and see how it doesn't go past negative.
Check 1 2.
So as you guys saw there, you know, I keep it a little bit lower than -3. I'd like to keep it anywhere from -6 to -3, you know, that just so that I have that much more room. But at least you need at least -3 dB of headroom for mastering. Now with all that said, we're gonna go ahead and click the E for the edit output channel settings, and we're gonna go ahead and open up our Izotope Ozone 4. First thing, when you open it up, you're gonna see a whole bunch of presets. You know, I like using the presets for only one reason, and that reason is if I'm just messing around, or a quick freestyle, or something like that. You know, something that is not gonna be serious, not a song that I actually care about, you know, just for shits and giggles, I guess. So for you guys that just want to do that, just go ahead and slap CD master on it. Sometimes I'll slap the hip hop master on it, but today I'm not doing that. I'm gonna actually, well, I've already actually mastered it, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what I did. Alright, so the first thing I like using is a loudness maximizer. Now first things I like doing here is, before I forget, is the margin dB. I like putting that at -0.3, and that is to make sure your song doesn't clip. Now next thing too, I think the type will be none for you guys, so go ahead and change that by clicking it, and it'll change it to NBIT plus, and leave everything like that. Now the mode should also be on intelligent, but I'll go ahead and put it on intelligent too. That's going to give that CD quality sound. Now for the threshold, what you're going to want to do for the threshold is play the song and move down the threshold until you have around -40 and 60 dB.
Check 1 2.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at 11.3, pretty good for me right now. And like I said, I already mastered this song, so I'm using the settings I already used earlier today. Now the second thing that I like about Ozone, the most thing I like about Ozone, is the paragraphic equalizer, because this equalizer, you can EQ the entire song as a stereo, or you have the option to actually just EQ the mids aside from the side. So for the mid, what I like to do is, the low shelf, I did the 20 Hz, and I gave that a -0.5 dB reduction, just to clean it up a little bit. And then I went ahead and gave this a 60 Hz, and the reason for 60 Hz is because in my experience I found out that, or I've come to see that that's where most songs kick in, around 60 Hz or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a 1 dB boost, and I'm going to go ahead and bring the Q all the way up to 12 to give that wide, because we want a wide Q. Then I'm going to bring this octave 1 octave up, which is 120 Hz, and give that a 1 dB gain as well. Bring the Q all the way up to 12. And then the other thing I like to do for a little more clarity is bring this one to 3500 Hz and give it a 0.5 dB gain. And guys, keep in mind that I already did this earlier today. It took about 2 or 3 hours. But when you're EQing and doing all the other stuff for mastering, you're gonna, for everything you do, you're gonna want to pause and listen and tweak. pause, listen, and tweak. So I'm just doing it as fast as I can now because I've already done it. All these settings like are from because I've already mastered it today. So when you guys are doing it, you can use my settings and then tweak them. Just play around with it until you get the sound that you want. So that's it for the mid. I'm going to go ahead and click on side, which is this blue bubble right here. And for the low shelf, I'm going to go ahead and put that at 200 Hertz and give that a -1 dB reduction. And leave the Q at 1. And then the last thing I'm going to do for the stereo is I'm going to go ahead and this high shelf, I'm going to bring it down to 8000 Hertz. Give it a 1 dB gain. And you can also go ahead and play the song and see how and these waves here can actually play to make sure it doesn't peak. And the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do for the mastering is reverb. So for the reverb, the room size, obviously the smaller room size you want, the smaller the number. I like going for 0.4 because I like using a smaller room. In the width, I go ahead and put that as 0.4 as well, anywhere from 0.3 to 0.5. And make sure your phase right here is anywhere from 0 to 1. As long as it's from 0 to 1, your phase is in good condition. Now, if you already put enough reverb or you already use reverb in your mix down, you're not going to want to add that much reverb to the mastering. So for this one, I used a 2.5. And as you see here, these two boxes right here, these gray areas, those are going to be the areas the frequencies that are unaffected by the reverb. So the only things that are going to be affected, or the only frequencies, are going to be from 50 Hertz to 7000 Hertz. And you can also solo it. And you guys can hear, the frequencies. They get more reverb around that area of frequencies. And that's what I do for the reverb. Now the other little tool that I like about Izotope is the harmonic exciter. This is gonna make your song fuller and thicker. Now what I do here is for band 4, I like to go anywhere from 1.1 to 1.5. For this one I gave it a 1.5. You don't want to go too high because this is what it does is distorts the frequency, and you don't want to distort it too much. For the band 3, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 0.5. Now for band 1 and band 2, you guys could mess around with it, but I usually don't because in my experience, every time I mess around with it, it adds muddiness to the song, and I don't like muddiness. Nobody likes their song to be muddy, so I go ahead and just leave that alone. Now the other thing that I like doing is the stereo imaging. It's gonna give it some width to your song. For the band 4, I used a 0.2. For the band 3, I gave it a 0.4. Usually always do 0.3, but for this song I went for 0.4. It sounded better. Now for band 2 and band 1, you're always gonna want to cut because that's gonna bring all the sounds together and tighter. So for this one, I went ahead and did 0.2. And for band 1, which is all the lows, I went ahead and gave it a -5. And again, always guys, make sure your phase is
Burning. Fuck this, I'm going now.
As long as it stays from 0 to 1. Let me show you real quick. So you see there, it's from 0 to 1. It's always staying at 1, so that's pretty good. Now the last thing I'm going to go ahead and do is the multi-band dynamics. Now as you see here, the dynamics got their own frequencies. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the 20 Hertz. Now for your ratio, you don't want to go too high when compressing for mastering. So I'll go ahead and do it anywhere from 1.5 to 2. For 20 Hertz, I gave it a 2. A ratio of 2.0. Now you're going to want to move your threshold down until you get around -4, -6 dB. But before we do that, we have to mess with the attack and the release. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on show. Now for the attack for this one, I gave it a 230 and a release of 285. And then after you mess around with that, always mess around with it, and listen, listen. Mastering is all about, repeat and error. You're going to keep repeating and messing around with it until you get it right. We're going to go ahead and click hide. And I already messed around with the threshold. and I gave it a gain of 3.8. Now for the 120 Hz, I did the same thing for the ratio. I gave it a 2.0. And for the attack, I gave it a 230 attack and a release of 245. And the gain, I gave it a 4.2. And if you guys see this auto gain compensation right here, you could use that, but think about it. If you do it to auto gain, it's basically me also Izotope, you know, trying its best to push it up again, you know, to make it sound fuller and make it sound louder and make it sound mastered. But if you think about it, a computer can't hear the music. The computer doesn't know how it really sounds, you know. That's why I like doing everything manually, because you master to your ear, to what you want to listen. So I'm moving on to the 2000 or the 2K Hz. And for this one, I went for a ratio of 1.5. Click show for the attack. For the attack, I went with the lower attack for 110 and a release of 210. And I'm going to hide that. And I went with the ratio, not a ratio, I went with a gain of 4.5. You're going to want to mess with the gain depending on how many dBs you cut. And for the 10K to 20K Hz, I went ahead and gave it a 1.5 again. And for the attack, I went ahead and gave it a 105 attack and 245 release. And that's pretty much everything that I do for mastering. And this is the best thing that I love about mastering right now. This bypass button right here. This is going to bypass every effect that you did on the mastering on the Izotope. And it's going to play the song exactly before how it was before you mastered it. And then as soon as you click it, it's going to put all the effects on. So what I like doing is, like, I bypass it and I'll play the song, which I'm about to do in a few seconds, and then I'll hit bypass again so I can hear the difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Check 1 2. One, two. Restless, can't sleep, tossing and turning, stressing, scratching, skin, anxiety, burning. Fuck this, I'm going out. It's 3 AM and I'm wanting to see what downtown's about.
So as you guys see, it does sound way better. It sounds louder. It sounds clean, crispy, everything. It is perfect the way I want it, at least for my mastering. You know, this is for home studios. I know I'm not an engineer. You know, I just do my best to show you guys. But if I've helped you in any way, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and like this video and share it. And if you guys want me to do a tutorial on anything else, make sure you go like my new Facebook page and just write me on there or write on the wall, and I'll make sure I do that for next week. Until then, guys, I'll see you again.
Raw, unique, you spit flaw. The type of nigga that hit the mall and drop jaws. No fellas, of course I'm talking about the ladies. Yeah, your girls saw the match.